This is the BS4 podcast, and I'm your host, Bria Villa. Hi, y'all. Welcome back to the BS4 podcast. I'm your host, Bria Villa, and I am so excited for today's episode because I have a near and dear friend of mine who is joining the couch with me. She was one of the first friends that I made when I lived in Atlanta. She's an entrepreneur. She's a creative. She has a custom denim line and it's fire. So go follow Curvature. I'm going to link it right here. But she really is one of the first friends that I've made in adulthood who allowed me to really feel and be seen. I felt like I could show up my full authentic self in our friendship, and she's someone who just like keeps up with me. I keep up with her. We're chaotic together, but I love it. And I'm so excited to introduce you to my girl, Kelsey. Welcome to the couch, honey.
Thank you, babe.
She's also a Leo. Good Leo, Scorpio vibes here. It's a dangerous.
A sexy duo.
A sexy duo.
Okay.
You said it, not me. Anything you would add to your intro?
I feel like you really hit the nail on the head. I do feel like creative is really the essence of who I am, whether doesn't matter what space or industry that really touches. But creative, digital marketer, I consider, and of course, alien.
So that's her thing. Her brand is like a big orange alien. His name's Kirby. He's really cute. Well, is Kirby a he?
Kirby is whatever you want him to be.
Okay.
Kirby is fluid. He is a personification of the alien inside of each of us. So
I love it. And she's wearing her denim. So if you are watching on YouTube, thank you for being here. If you're listening, go watch on YouTube because her denim is fire and you have to see it. But she makes all one pieces. They're so dope. Every time I wear a pair of your jeans, people are like, where did you get those? Where are those from? So she's that girl. And I'm excited to like watch you really blow up in that space too, because I know that you will.
Thank you so much.
Of course. So I'm excited to have Kelsey because originally we were going to talk about neurodivergence, and I think that's actually going to be a part of the topic today still.
For sure.
But Kelsey and I both are ADHD girlies. Mm-hmm. We're both neurodivergent. Kelsey has a brother who is on the spectrum.
Yep.
And so we connected in a lot of ways because of that. Our conversations, which you may see today, can go in like 10 different directions at once, but we always
always come back to the main point.
Literally,
okay,
we always find our way back. We might go like 10 miles in the opposite direction, but then we go backtrack all the way to where we started. But today the B is for being seen, and I am so thankful because I really feel seen with you. I feel like I tapped so much more into my creative side as soon as we started being friends.
It makes my heart smile.
No, I'm dead serious too. Like I feel like when I started hanging out with you, I started to like take more leaps of faith with what I wear and how I present myself. And I just feel like you are so authentically you that it like inspired me to be more authentically me.
It's crazy because it's always wild hearing your friend's perspective of who you are.
Yeah.
Because like the things that you were saying, you never think that you are the one bringing these gifts into people's life. And I think that really is what we're talking about. Being seen is being seen in ways in which you might not see yourself. Yeah. And I feel like with us, my relationship with you really highlighted the parts of myself that I wasn't looking at, that I was taking for granted, or that I was thinking did not bring value into people's lives. So I'm grateful for my relationship with you because I feel like you've allowed me to see the value in which that I bring to others and vice versa. So, yeah.
But no, I totally resonate with that. And I feel like you are just the fluidity of like her mindset has always been very inspiring to me. And it's allowed me to like think differently, get new perspective. I feel like I went on a whole spiritual journey with you in a way.
Yes, I feel like spirituality is a big essence and like big presence of our relationship, which for me, that is what really was the hook for me initially. Because I feel like specifically our spiritual journey has been very similar, and it has also been very unique, that it's not I guess you could say the norm. I think also they were happening simultaneously. So for me, that was really in the moment, like I had been seen in that way, and it's been very rare that I'm seen in that way.
Same.
Spirituality is something that is so unique and so personal. And for me at the time, it was something, I don't want to say shame, but when it's changing, when it's transforming, especially in a way that is really different from your background, your upbringing, it's uncomfortable. So being able to feel seen and recognized in that way was really special to me. And that was really what kind of hooked me in.
Hooked it.
That's how you bag me, girl.
Okay. Indeed. No, I feel the exact same way, because I feel like we share a lot of the way that we talk about our relationship with God is so similar.
Yeah.
It's very unique. I think that we both have pulled so much from like our upbringing, the things that we've seen, but then also like our own experiences. So I'm just so thankful that I was seen in that way by you, and you helped me like lean into it and tap into it more. But also just like the fact that our brains are bro, our brains are all over the place. Like,
all over the place.
Literally, it's a lot of people don't understand it because if you haven't ever experienced it, and I also think like people throw around the term like neurodivergence, people throw around the term ADHD, but like I was actually diagnosed this year for the first time at 27 years old.
Yeah, and most women are diagnosed later in life, whether it's ADHD, whether it's autism, because a lot of the indicators that people chalk up to possibly neurodivergent, which is fluctuating emotions, which is these big displays of emotions, of feelings, of reactions. And a lot of times as women, as young girls, they chalk it up to, it's like, that's little girls being little girls. So the society much more notices it in young boys.
And majority of studies have been done. Majority of ADHD studies, autism studies, Asperger's studies have been done on men.
On men.
So
most medical studies
in general have been done on men. And so it's so much harder to recognize in women because shoot, all the doctors that you done had have read textbooks and gone to school where the research that they are studying has not been on women. So like the diagnosis has just been a lot more difficult to make. And recent studies have shown ADHD, autism, neurodivergence in general show up very, very differently in women than they do men. Not always, but often. And I feel like me having conversations with you, especially in the beginning of our friendship, I'm like, oh shoot, like I can go to like 5 points and she's still following me.
And that
so
was
chaotic.
Right. And because normally people kind of like give me a hard time for how I engage in conversations, but I felt like with you that wasn't a barrier at all. If anything, I felt like it was a very beautiful, like fluid and natural part of our dynamic. So yeah, I was grateful for it.
Yeah, me too. Shoot,
it was a breath of fresh air
because it makes you feel crazy sometimes.
Oh my god.
Like I'm like, people don't understand like certain things that I do. I'm like, my brain like needs that in that moment. So like if you're watching me on YouTube, you'll notice in a lot of my podcasts now that I pointed out, I play with my hair a lot. As we're both playing with our hair. I'm always like playing with my nails. Like it's about like stimulation.
Yes, touching the fingertips is a big one for me if I'm feeling anxious. I also feel the need to be so I have this big giant like snuggie hoodie blanket thing. So when I'm feeling overstimulated or I'm just feeling like I just need that like compression around me.
It's like a safety thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And I always have to have like a blanket covering my feet. Like I don't like to feel like certain aspects of my body are exposed. It's like there's
a lot of weird nuances to it. And I feel like, so for me, so you being diagnosed later in life, I grew up with a neurodivergent brother. My brother Gerard. Shout out to him.
We love Gerard. Gerard has the sweetest soul.
Oh my
God.
God.
He's funny.
He is like the essence of love for me.
Oh
He's
my
like
God.
my reason why for everything, the reason why I'm sitting here, the reason why I'm able to have these conversations. But growing up with an autistic brother, and he also has a developmental disease, or condition, I should say, I underestimated what that meant for me as his sibling. I think growing up, it was constantly him being well, for me, and, honestly, to be honest, even my family dynamic, like Gerard really kind of took precedent, not in the sense that he was like more important, but he had needs that I did not have, needs that needed to be met. But I think I always underestimated how much that affected me as his sister. And I think as I've like throughout this time period of my life now, I'm like noticing like, oh, maybe my communication style this way, or maybe my inability to like control my emotions all the time, and kind of I have more of like outbursts. Well, now as I'm working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm grown.
Yeah.
But a lot of that
like
mirrors
emotion regulation.
Yeah, emotional regulation. A lot of that mirrors my brother.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I was putting it a lot on my parents, like, but I'm realizing like, no, there's more than just the parental relationship in a household. Growing up with siblings and being my only sibling was one who is neurodivergent. I think that definitely affected me.
Oh my God, yeah. But I also feel like it's created a space, like your level of patience, kindness, understanding, empathy is so deep. And I think it's because of the like role that you played in that dynamic.
Never have thought about. I just kind of had like a little epiphany. Not epiphany, but little.
I love epiphanies on the couch. Bring it, baby.
I think a big reason for that is because a lot of the times with neurodivergent people, a lot of the communication is nonverbal. So a lot of it is them picking up on energy, on vibes, on reading the room, on reading whether it's facial expressions, or doing to the best of your ability. A lot of times they struggle with that, but there is an emphasis on that because a lot of times how they feel, they can't put it into words. And so how they're communicating, like I would notice my brother's feeling tense. I would notice him immediately tense up or get anxious or overstimulated, not because he was telling my family that, but because you just had to be in tune with him in order to take care of him, in order to love him. And so there always is, like, I remember there was one situation, I forget what it was specifically, but it's so funny because my mom always, like, she's the one who sends me to kind of do the extra digging with him, because I feel like as his sister, I'm able to get
sibling
there.
relationships.
Yeah, regardless, it's different.
It is.
And there was one situation, and after talking to him, I realized, I'm like, he's experiencing embarrassment. And he could not put into words like, Mom, Dad, I'm feeling embarrassed. And I had to like use his context clues and use his ways of communication. And I'm like, oh my God, Gerard's embarrassed.
Oh my
And then when I like communicated that to my mom, we were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
He's embarrassed.
Like, Eureka, he's freaking embarrassed. Which is an everyday human emotion, but for him, it's something that
it shows up differently.
It shows up differently.
It shows up differently, and that's the beauty in getting perspective from other people.
Yeah,
that's the beauty in leaning in. But I think specifically for you, that is a really powerful skill that you have. You're very good at reading energy, seeing people deeper than surface level, and you do it quickly. Like you just are very, very good at that. But I think you and Gerard's relationship has helped you do that.
For sure. But then I think the other side of the coin is hypervigilance, to where I'm constantly reading the room, reading people's emotions around me, whether it's my partner and my friends, with my parents.
Yeah.
Because in one relationship, it's very helpful with my brother. It's something that I needed to do, quote unquote, for survival. But I'm realizing as I'm getting older how much, okay, I need to know when to kind of lock it down, because this is not the space for that. This is not the person for that.
Yeah.
And also it can be a bit, I think for the other person, it can be a bit invasive. I think relationship really brought that out for me, that being so good at reading energy and people, it's a gift, but it can be invasive, especially without having the other person's like approval, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a really good point. I feel like I like the term hypervigilance, because it's almost like you get to a point where you start to read and analyze people's emotions whether they're ready for that or not, whether they've accepted that or not, or whether that's really truly how they feel, because there's no way of knowing for sure.
Yeah.
And I find myself doing that often.
Yes.
too.
You do that. You also are very good at it. And I feel like for us, because with each other, we're like, ooh,
yeah, we
love this. Hell yeah. Invade my energy all you want. Okay.
Deadass. But I feel like I understand that with you, but yeah, a lot of people I've realized that I have to limit, because not everybody's in a place to accept the things that I see or feel.
And it can be very heavy for people that are not ready for it. And I had to realize it is not my job to uncover people.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to go to that depth.
Yeah.
Some people don't want you specifically to be the person to uncover that for them.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a very humbling experience, because I kind of at first was very much moving from a place of ego, in the sense that like, if no one could do it, I could do it.
Right.
And that's when you kind of get caught up into like the savior complex and like that whole thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of had to like humble myself, like, okay, you have this beautiful ability.
Yeah.
And honoring that ability is also being able to pull it back.
Yeah.
Being able to control it.
You don't always have to act on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel that with myself is like this situation literally happened today in an interaction that I watched, and I was sitting there literally thinking to myself, I was like, this person is not in a space to receive. They're not in a space to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
They're not in a space to lean in.
They're not in the space to be seen.
And and there were certain things that I was like, and this is like a skill that I've learned, because I think in the past, and I felt it, part of having ADHD is like, sometimes my thoughts are so loud that the only way to quiet them, I feel like I have to say them out loud. So like I talk in a sense of like, sometimes I'm literally thinking out loud. Like you can like actively watch my brain like turning.
Journaling has helped
me a lot
with that.
But I've also learned, I think when I was younger, there were certain things, like people say I'm really blunt, which I am. And you've literally told me this. Because it's literally my initial thought just out loud. Like I just say it. But I've learned that certain things I have to like bite my tongue on, not because it isn't true or not because it isn't applicable to the situation, but because the situation doesn't warrant my response. Like the person doesn't need to hear this from me.
Doesn't need to hear that. And like, I feel like one part of my spiritual journey that I learned is the universe tells you when to be quiet. God tells you when to be quiet. And most of the time, it's not always to protect you, but it's to protect the others around you and to respect their space and to respect their energy. So yeah.
Yeah. No, you're
and
so
being with
right.
ADHD, you got to learn to just
hard. I'm
zip
like,
it.
Dang, I gotta be quiet for what?
Hush up,
I'm
girl.
like, the way that this mouth be moving, certified yapper. Like, Bria, please.
It's been a big part of like my maturity journey. Is just knowing when to be quiet. And knowing like you can't save everybody. It's not your job to tell everybody. And also you end up taking on a lot of emotional responsibility, burning a lot of emotional calories.
For sure.
Shout out to my mama, because she told me about emotional calories and I'm like, wow.
I love Kelsey's mom. Kelsey's mom is a very tapped in woman. Like, I'm like, me and Kelsey mom on texting basis now. She is a tapped in woman, but emotional calories. That is so good. You're burning a lot of emotional calories by pouring into people who are not even like willing to receive it or in a place to receive it at that time. And also people who don't understand
who do not understand you, it, and or them.
Don't understand themselves. Don't understand me and how my brain works. And I've been told, it's funny, like, and I'm sure that you've gotten this too, and we've talked about this a little bit, but like I've been told so many times in my life, like, you think, it's almost like to water me down a little bit of like, you think so deeply. Like, it's not that deep.
It's not that
and
deep.
I'm like, and I'm like, bro, but it is though.
But it is.
And you just want to, just because you only want to look at it at surface level doesn't mean that there isn't something deeper behind it. There's roots within roots within roots. Like they run so deep. And I feel like I was quieted a lot because I was so deep. And like, like we'll shoot the shit. Like we'll giggle. We'll have fun. Like we're not deep all the damn time.
For the most part,
there's depth.
And even thinking about my other friendships that I have created here in Atlanta, a lot of it is really rooted in depth.
It is.
And it has also allowed me to then realize my other relationships that I formed prior to moving here. I'm like, oh, these are not deep enough.
Ooh.
So whether it's relationships that needed to end, whether it's relationships that I value, but I was realizing that I was kind of putting this half-ass effort into. Because I firmly believe that every relationship that I want to have in my life requires a certain amount of depth, requires a certain amount of understanding. And it's something like what you said, I'm not going to apologize for it.
No.
That's a boundary for me. Like, no, you got to be able to, I need you to be able to get up in the ooey gooey.
Yeah. And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
But for a while, and I think we were both like this at one point, is like we did try to water it down.
Oh my God.
Like,
how freaking suffocating.
oh my, I'm like,
if
I'm
you
watering
are
myself down for you.
Yes. If you are a deep person, do not run from it. Do not try to dilute it. Embrace it, pour into it, and dive further into the depth.
Oh my God. For
like,
sure.
Because there's levels.
That's good advice.
There's really levels to it.
There really is. And I feel like life is such a beautiful thing. And I think we take so much advantage of it and so much for granted that if you're living moment by moment at surface level, then you're really not experiencing life for like the full capacity that it can be.
Yes.
And like, to me, the level of depth that I'm talking about, and we talk about this a lot, is like, even just like, we'll walk outside, and this is like truly one of the first friends that I've like been able to do. I have like the people in my circle now I can do this with, but like you really helped me tap into this more, is like, we'll go for a walk and I can see both of us truly observing the world around us.
Observing every inch, corner.
Everything. I'm like, that tree, the way the bark is on the tree.
I was literally just listening to a freaking podcast, and it was actually with this psychic medium.
Ooh.
And she was talking about just the fact that for those that know, there's so much more than what meets the eye. There's so much more than the reality that we are existing in. And I feel like you and I did share that in common. And it's about noticing the small things, but understanding that the small things are most of the time bigger than you.
Yes.
Like, you are the small thing.
Yes. I'm like, we are literally microscopic.
Yeah.
On a speck of dust.
Yeah.
Floating in an endless and vast universe.
Endless.
And like, we are nothing but everything at the same time. And like, to really know life is to know nothing at all, which is a very wild concept to think about, and I think that goes over a lot of people's heads. And honestly, if you're not in a place to receive that now, that's totally
it might be
fine.
like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah. And that okay, go ahead. Maybe this episode ain't for you, but it's definitely for us, and for those who like feel us and see us. And I think that's also just a part of being neurodivergent, is they say that people who are neurodivergent have another level of, whether you call it like being tapped in or whether you like, our sensory things,
that third eye
is it's real.
It's
like
real.
Like, my senses are so magnified. Like, the touch of things, the sound of things, the smell of things. Like, everything is so and I didn't realize that like the depth that I have in those things isn't normal.
No.
Like, I didn't understand that until I got older.
And I didn't know that until I would like try to talk to my mom about it or my parents about it. And they're just like, you're doing too much. It's too much. Yeah. And growing up in my head, I'm like, I know it's not too much.
Like, it
and
feels
I know
right to me.
It feels right. And I believe in trusting that inner gut, that inner intuition. And I'm like, no, this is right for me, and this is how I choose to see the world. And not even choose to, whether I choose to or not, this is how it is. And I can't fight against that.
It's real. It's real. So real. Like, we did a photo shoot for her birthday, and it was so dope. Like, she's also a very good, you are like a creative producer. She is really good at like curating things and bringing them to life. So she'll pull a bunch of different ideas together. She'll curate an entire experience, package it, and deliver it. I think you're really good at that. She's gonna step into that at some point. Watch out. But she gets all these props that we have for this photo shoot. Stuff that I would have never thought of. And she gonna get this slime. It was something about this slime that I was like infatuated with. And I think it was like a something about like the stimulation
Yes.
of it.
Mhm.
It was very,
Yep.
I don't know. It like,
And it's crazy because if you even look at a lot of the tools people use, whether it's with children who are learning, I'm forgetting the freaking term, but when for children who are learning like new textures, for example, or even for children who are neurodivergent, who are autistic, and whether they introduce them different textures, different props. And so for me, I've always been like growing up my whole life, slime, stress balls has always been something that I gravitate. If you see, I wear a lot of rings, and a lot of people think like, oh, I just like to accessorize, and I'm like, no, I fidget with it all day. It actually during this interview, it's like calming my nervous system, it's keeping me grounded. And realizing that that wasn't a common experience. And I think because for me, I kind of don't know if it's like, okay, was it nature versus nurture, right? Is this because of like, this is the brain and the way that I do things and I was born this way? Or is it because of the fact that my sibling, who is also older than me, 3 years older than me, that's what he does. My brother is also diagnosed with OCD. He has OCD, crazy OCD. So I always am interested in the ways in which it is rubbed off on me. So
my sister too.
Yeah.
My sister has OCD.
And I would love to, I'm surprised we haven't researched more in terms of how OCD genetically happens.
Because I've read a whole book. There's a whole book that Gabor Mate, that's his name, wrote on ADHD. And actually ADHD is half genetics, half environment. And really down to the environment in which your parents were experiencing when you were in the womb.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
There's a Stanford professor, Robert Sapolsky, and he was just talking about how much within the third trimester of child development, how much the baby's development is dependent on the mother's socioeconomic situation at the time, which is all connected to stress hormones, all that.
Everything.
But yeah, it was
that's wild. No, but it's like, there's so many studies behind it, and that book really opened my eyes to like what ADHD is, how to navigate it. But it's funny because when I was going through, so my sister, and like people like joke about OCD, like I'm just a really clean person.
Yes.
No, there's like a very like diagnosed OCD is vastly different
and
than.
That's one thing that's frustrating, I think, especially now with social media and TikTok, there is a lot of self-diagnosing going on. Which for me, being a person, like I said, growing up with a brother who is diagnosed, it's frustrating to me because someone, you might be mad that, all your clothes aren't folded up or there's a pile of laundry on the floor. Well, to be honest, that's normal. That should bother you.
Right.
But if it's in the sense where, like my brother, when he cannot go to sleep, if the clock is even an inch off of the position it should be in, the angle that it needs to be in, and he will fix it and fix it and fix it, even if it means him not sleeping that whole night. If the clock goes off or if something's flickering, he will not rest his body, his mind until this one specific thing is fixed. So I think for us having siblings, we can see how also debilitating OCD is.
Absolutely.
So when people joke about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cute and all, but I'm like, no, there's real people with real experiences and real families that are like dealing with this.
And it's so, again, deeper than just like the coin terms and like what's buzzy on social media right now. And like, granted, I think that we are growing up in a very overstimulated generation. So I do think that there is a vast amount of people who are neurodivergent that haven't been diagnosed. And I do think it's part of the nature in which we live in. But I also think that there's still a level of care that you need to take when utilizing these terms, because to your point, like some of these, like the nuances between ADHD, autism, OCD, etc., can be so debilitating. And when it actually changes the way that you operate, because for some things for me, I like cannot, I feel like my mind, which is literally happening as I speak, I have like 10 thought streams at once.
And you have
all the time. And I have to like bounce between, because I'm literally thinking about where this conversation can go in 5 minutes. I'm thinking about 5 minutes ago and how I can pull that back in.
Production. I'm looking at the lights.
So many things. Like I'm paying attention to every move that they're making behind the camera right now, even though it seems like I'm not paying attention to every move that they're making behind the camera right now. So it's like and that does not turn off.
Yeah.
Like you just learn how to navigate it and you learn how to live with it.
So what has been like your toolbox in navigating? Because I also refer to it as like, some people say monkey brain, like a lot of like Buddhist meditation practices talk about that. But with ADHD, it's like your monkey brain, you got a whole zoo up in there. Yeah.
Elephants is
the giraffes is slapping necks. Because that's how they be fighting. I'm like, oh my God.
Y'all good? Like, y'all be wilding. Damn, a fun fact about giraffes just popped in my head, but I'm not going to say it.
But that's another thing. Bria and I are both walking encyclopedias.
Like, I know random shit about random shit. And
I know like every dog and cat breed.
Yeah, it's actually insane. We're the brain.
This is exactly what we was talking about.
This is what we was talking about. We'll come back to the point. I feel like the things that I do now, I'm still figuring it out, honestly. Like I don't fully know how to quiet it. I know meditation helps me. I really struggle with meditation. That's why I do it, is because it's so hard for me, but I like forcing myself to do it is a good practice. Journaling.
Oh my God.
And honestly, what really allows me and helps me to focus, music. Like if I'm walking through an airport, if I'm in a like busy public place where I feel like my brain is going to be going a million miles an hour, if I put headphones in and I have a track going, I can actually like stay in like a stream of thought.
And literally I've been
without getting overstimulated.
Like I know when we go in public, we'll have like a little AirPod in, something like that. I have literally been bringing, ladies be safe doing this, however, I've been bringing my like noise canceling headphones with me. Even if I'm going to like TJ Maxx, I'm going like whatever, grocery shopping, bringing my noise canceling headphones with me has been very comforting for me. It just kind of makes me feel safe. It makes me feel like I can go in and I can kind of pick one stream of thought, which would be the task at hand. So I definitely resonate. I definitely resonate.
I like can't grocery shop without music.
I need the headphones.
And it's only because I will get so overstimulated by all the colors that are in the aisle, all the people that are walking up and down. So I need something that's going to like keep me in a headspace. And for whatever reason, that's music. I was thinking about this yesterday or last night, because I took a red eye here as I was navigating through the airport. I was getting so overstimulated that I literally had to like
airports are hard.
Stop. Yeah. Oh my God. It's so hard.
Airports are hard.
But I had to like stop what I was doing and like find my headphones, pick a good playlist that I knew that was going to keep me on track. And then I was solid. So like you'll find little things that help you navigate it.
Yeah. And on the music point, a big part for me has been music without words.
Yes.
I feel like that has been a recent, I would say within the last...
What's your playlist called?
Oh, Lacking Words, Abundant Thoughts.
Oof.
Yeah.
Lacking Words, Abundant Thoughts.
Check me out on Spotify.
Fire playlist title.
And it's allowed me to get to know myself, because I think discovering new things is a great way in which we can dive into self. So listening to music without words and listening to music ranging from all corners of the world, of different cultures. So diving into that has really allowed me to, one, discover like new things that I like, but without the words, it allows space for thought. And because at times I had thought that the words were like adding to my already
overstimulated
mind.
Yeah.
So that has been huge for me. Even making these jeans, I listen to music with not a single word. It's instruments, it's beats. I've really gotten into deep house. That's been cool.
I like deep house too.
Afro house.
But
there's like levels to it.
To the pod, if you listen closely, it took me 4 hours to find the sound, and I have it, and it's royalty free. Okay, so don't try and come for me with the copyright bullshit. But my intro to the pod is Afro house.
Afro
and
house
I sourced it specifically because I wanted to find something that felt authentic to me. And felt like something I would actually listen to.
And there's Afro house that ranges. Africa is such a
diverse,
rich and diverse
continent.
And there's Afro house,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's little sections. There's Afro house out of Zambia, there's Afro house out of Nigeria, Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been just a dope experience experiencing cultures while also grounding myself
Yeah.
through music. So
I love
Yeah.
that. That's so
Yeah.
dope. Well, I feel like if you are someone who is navigating neurodiversity, I
Mhm.
also think that it can feel debilitating at
Yeah.
times, but it's also a strength and a
Oh my
superpower
God, it's
because you have a
superpower.
perspective that so many
Mhm.
people just like don't often
Yeah.
experience or have. So embrace it,
Mhm.
own it, lean into it. It's created a level of bond between us.
Oh my God.
Like we literally see
It
each
is
other.
the source of creativity. It is the
Mhm.
source for me for love and connection.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for it. So it's an
Me too.
absolute superpower.
Yeah, it's a bridge between you and
It's
I.
a complete bridge.
It's a bridge
Yeah.
between you and I, and I'm thankful.
sure. Me
So I am so thankful for you being
Oh, thank
here.
you.
Thanks for like
Thank you.
sharing the space with me. Thanks for being
Yes.
vulnerable with me about
Oh my
this because
God.
it's like I don't know, it's not always easy to talk about.
It's not easy to talk about. And for me, I would like to give you your flowers in the sense that I know what it means to have to force yourself to exist in that more organized thought and
Mhm.
process. And you are doing it so beautifully,
Thank
so
you.
flawlessly, but still executing it authentically.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And
you.
this is dope as shit. So
I was like, I can't wait to get you on the pod. Like we've talked about this. We also have a secret episode that's really good and it's so funny and it may or may not be under the influence. And at some point, but y'all can tap into that at some point.
Yeah.
You'll see. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being you. I appreciate you for allowing me to be seen. And that's what the B is for today, being seen. So thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Make sure that y'all tune in, listen on every listening platform. It's also on YouTube, so make sure you go watch it. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all the things. But until then, we will see y'all next week.